Today, I am chatting to Matt Masiandaro, the CEO and President of ESP Guitars in the USA. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
For the viewers at home, could you give us some history of your long involvement with ESP Guitars, starting with how long you've been with them now?
Well, I'm starting year 26 this month, believe it or not. And most of the 1980s I spent, before I was with ESP, I spent on tour with bands like Aerosmith and Motorhead and Dokken, doing things such as a technician, tour managing, doing merchandising for numerous bands. And I met up with ESP when George Lynch was looking to get his first guitar made. And they offered me a position if I ever wanted to get off the road. And the timing just worked out. I was ready to stop, and I took them up on it back in '87.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
ESP have some great associations with brands like EMG, Seymour Duncan pickups, locking machine heads, clear tone strings. Tell us about these relationships and their importance to your company.
Well, companies like Seymour Duncan and EMG have been with us since almost the beginning. And being able to use quality parts on our guitars adds significant value to them. So it's essential for us to have a relationship with those people.
An important part of ESP's success story was ESP's association with George Lynch, with ESP launching their first signature series guitar with George's name on it. Can you share your thoughts with us what George did for ESP?
He really put ESP on the map in the United States because we were just coming out of being a replacement parts company and a vintage reproduction company, and we were trying to establish our own identity with our own designs. And when George came on board, it really took us to the next level.
Tell us about the first George Lynch model and how it came about.
Well, back in '85 or '86, I was working for George at the time, and he was trying to find an ESP neck to put on one of his guitars because someone had recommended ESP parts to him. And ESP was still, in the United States, just a parts company, but he couldn't find the neck anywhere. So we were going to Tokyo soon after that for a tour of Japan, and we went into one of the ESP shops looking for the neck. And the owner of ESP was there, along with some of their builders, and they offered to build George a guitar. You know, we'll build you anything you want, just tell us what it is. And he must have had the kamikaze idea in his head for a while because on the spot, he just described everything about it, the thicker body, camo, picture of the kamikaze pilot, the kanji lettering, and the reverse headstock. And about 2 months later, it was delivered to the ESP shop in New York, and I remember picking it up. The paint was barely dry. And once George got that, he was all ESP, and he still is to this day. But that was the very first guitar he got. He actually still has it and plays it from time to time.
Great story and an important moment in rock. With George being your first endorsee, your biggest is still the Metallica models for Kirk and James. Tell us about your personal association with Metallica and the influence they've had on ESP.
Well, Kirk, I started in '87, and Kirk got his first ESP in '86. He is close with Scott Ian of Anthrax, and Scott was an endorser back then. And we were making Scott these custom guitars with graphics on them and custom inlays, and Kirk was playing off-the-shelf guitars. So Scott said, you got to check out ESP because they can build anything for you. There's no limitations on what ESP can do. And we were one of the few guitar companies that could actually offer that to people back then. So Kurt came to us when his first design was the black guitar with the skull inlays, although the first one had the inlays facing a different direction. And when we got to the one that he plays now, it's still a guitar being made to this day, and he still plays it to this day. But the band has had a huge influence on this company. They're a big part of the company's success. There is no doubt about that. And we work with them very closely, constantly coming to us with new designs, the Snakebite being the most recent. Just to give you an example, the Snakebite, James came to us a couple of years ago and said, let's try to replace the Explorer with something else, because we had stopped making the Gibson Explorer in '99. And that had been his favorite guitar. So he said he was ready to try something different. And going back and forth, sometimes a few times a day, nailing down this design, changing the contours or the headstock shape. James was very involved in this, which is what I'd like to see happen. because the more the artist is involved in the design of the guitar, the more likely he is to embrace it and play it. And that's what happened with the Snakebite. But both Metallica artists, whenever they're ready, whenever an idea pops into their head and they want something unusual or custom made, they know who to call, and we usually are able to get it done. And Kirk we've been working with since '86, and James I would say probably '92, '93. And it's a great relationship for the company, and we really appreciate everything they've done for us, no doubt.